This is another episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC, celebrating 40-plus years on the fringe of show business. Stories, interviews, and comedy sets from the famous and not so famous. Here's your host and MC, Scott Edwards.
Hello and welcome to this week's podcast. We have another exciting afternoon of comedy and interview, and this week I'm so lucky to be talking to one of the funniest guys out of the San Francisco Bay Area. You've seen him on Evening at the Improv, Make Me Laugh, and he's a regular on the David Letterman show.
Right.
We'll talk about that in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Larry Bubbles Brown.
Thanks.
Wow, the crowd goes nuts.
Good to hear from you, Scott. It's been a long time.
Yeah, great to hear your voice, and you sound just the same, so you're not aging at all, right?
I haven't, well, because I run 6 miles every other day. It's keeping me young.
Oh, actually, that's very athletic of you. I wish I was so motivated. I've not been good at running. I try to stay healthy by using that arm swing to get food to my mouth. So, but Larry, we worked together in the early 80s, and we've had a chance to chat via email, and you reminded me of a couple stories. So we'll get into it. Yeah, a couple
stories. It was my first. I'm pretty good on days. In fact, I came up with Milt Abel the last Sunday of March of '82.
That's very specific.
Yes, you had us audition, and Paula Poundstone was the headliner that week, and we both went up, and we weren't quite ready. And then I remember I came back, and my first week at Laughs was June 22nd, 1983, and it was with Robert Schimmel was the middle. This is how long ago it is.
Yeah. Well, that's an astounding memory. I think you're the first one of my interviews to be able to peg the date and who you worked with.
I'm pretty good on dates. And I remember I worked with Schimmel, and he was very helpful. And that was my first road gig. It was very exciting. I was kind of scared, and he was very encouraging.
Yeah, Robert comes across on stage as being pretty caustic, but actually off stage, he was one of the nicest guys to work with. And had a tremendous career in comedy. And I think it's really impressive to hear that he took the time to work with you. We were very lucky as a comedy club, being one of the first ones in the country doing that stuff, that there was a lot of kind of a learning curve, not only for me as a club owner and MC, but as the comics. A lot of people, Will Durst, Gary Shandling, there was a number of people. It was the very first road gig. But more important than that, a lot of young comics, and you mentioned yourself and Milt Abel, who ended up being headliners, had a chance to get started, get your feet wet in the business, and kind of test the waters with the help and support of hopefully me and the club, but also the headliners and other comics. I think there is a certain amount of comedic camaraderie. Say that fast 3 times.
Yeah, it was really helpful to work with somebody like that. He was a great guy and had a tremendous career and a very odd life.
Yeah, definitely. And it was interesting that you said you came up and showcased with Milt Abel. Milt and I are very good friends still, and we worked together just like you several times over the coming decades or years. I did want to touch on something a little more personal. You are not the most exuberant, power-packed excitement on stage.
No.
You take a more dour approach to comedy, which makes you unique. But I've never known who gave you the nickname Bubbles, or was that self-appointed?
That was Paula.
No.
Paula Poundstone. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
She, well, I'll tell you how it happened. There's a documentary I'm in. It's called Three Still Standing. It's about the San Francisco comedy boom of the 80s. It focuses on me and Durst and Johnny Steele. And one night at the Holy City Zoo, Paula Poundstone was hosting an open mic, and I was doing a set. And for some reason, I suggested that me and her and another girl that worked at the zoo go to these hot tubs down the street. And she thought that was so hysterical, so she started calling me Bubbles.
And it stuck.
And it stuck. And I never liked that name, but it kind of stuck. And someone said, well, it's good because people never remember names, but they'll remember Bubbles. So I kept it. So.
I didn't realize you didn't like it. I hope I wasn't insulting you all those years. But
no, I've gotten to I like it. People call me Bub now. That's fine. So
well, I don't, and this is just my 2 cents. I never thought of you as Bubbles, like Bubbles the monkey or something. It went as a series, Larry, Bubbles, Brown. And to me, what I found, and I'm totally overread into it, but because your effervescent energy on stage, which is really 180 of that. But I mean, your deadpan presentation of comedy, the Bubbles was kind of, like you call a really big guy shorty or something,
Right, exactly.
That Bubbles gives the idea that you're going to be effervescent on stage, and it's just the opposite. You are really funny by being more deadpan, not to the level of Stephen Wright, but definitely compared to some of the other acts.
Right, because I think I would say 95% of the acts then are very high energy, happy crowd pleasers, and so.
Well, it was a different approach, but it worked for you.
It worked for me. I think maybe I was because I was a little different, so maybe that helped. I don't know, but.
Well, I mean, it must have had some impact. I mean, Larry, you've been a successful stand-up comic. We were just alluding in the opening, you had 2 appearances on the David Letterman show, coincidentally setting a record, being the biggest time difference between. You had 20 years.
21 years.
21 years in between the 2 visits. And even though that's an interesting record to have with Letterman, it does really speak to your success over 21 years. I mean, right?
I guess. I think just if you can make a living at this, it's how hard it is to make a living at this. So just hanging around that long, I guess, shows some success.
Well, certainly. And it's not an easy way to go. I've been around comics and road work for, 4 decades. And I think one of the hardest jobs in the world has to be a traveling entertainer, whether it's a musician, a comic, you name it. The work and the life on the road is really challenging.
Yeah, traveling's brutal, especially as you get older. So it's exhausting and expensive, and there's not a lot of fun about it.
Yeah, it is definitely something that I never aspired to do or wanted to do. I did a few productions where I produced shows out of town and traveled for those, but that's a whole different beast from grinding through a week in some small town in the Midwest, and you have to get yourself there, sleep in a bed you don't know, you're living with people you don't really know for a week, and then hopefully get enough money to get yourself home and have made a profit. I mean, it's I don't think a lot of my audience, non-entertainers, would really understand the difficulties and the challenges of the road.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be fun, but I think if people did it for a couple of weeks and go, hey, I want out of this.
Right. We all think it's really cool to stay in a hotel room, but imagine living in with one, 300 days a year.
Yeah, some people do that.
Right. Although, as we know, road comics rarely got a nice hotel.
Very rarely. At least you had a nice condo for us.
Yeah, you mentioned that in the email. You go ahead and tell the audience where you stayed when you were working at Laughs.
Yeah, it was a high-rise condo near the club. I remember we could walk to the club from there. I forget what street it was on, and I don't know if it was the first. I think it was the second time I worked there. I came up, and the room next to us, there was 2 guys in suits sitting in front of the door. I thought that was weird. Then I came in, and one of the other comics told me, the governor of California lives next to us, because they were remodeling the governor's mansion, and the governor of California was next to 3 comedians, which how there wasn't an incident, I don't know how something bad didn't happen. But
Yeah, it was interesting because it became the fodder of a lot of material on stage, but luckily at the actual location, there was no need for interaction between the local Secret Service and I believe it was Governor Duke Majan at the time.
It was Duke Majan, yeah.
Yeah, and the comics, which, like you said, could have been one of those fast-moving sitcoms.
Or an arrest.
Right. The crazy things. Now, you mentioned you had a chance to work with Robert Schimmel. Didn't you also work with Angel Salazar?
That was I worked, that was the third time I was up. That was March of 84. Yes, that was Angel Salazar, he had just done the movie with where Al Pacino, where he played Tony Montana, and Angel had a part
Scarface,
in that movie.
Right?
Scarface, yeah, and he had a lot of recognition off that, and
yeah, that was
a fun guy.
That was interesting. We actually had used Angel a couple times before the movie, and in the movie Scarface, he played one of the thugs. He is actually one of the last people to die in the movie, which is interesting, but it gave him some fame and notoriety that we were able to trade on in the few gigs that he worked after that. Interesting comic. He had a different style than you for sure. He was very high energy.
Oh yeah, he came out. Didn't he come out with a boombox?
Right. Very Hispanic street boombox on his shoulder, and he would strut out, and that's kind of the basis of his character. He was playing off, really who he was, Hispanic off the streets of L.A. Doing stand-up comedy. Interesting.
Well, that was a huge movie, so.
Oh yeah, no, definitely still is. So you've certainly. Over the last 30, 40 years had your experiences on the road. Is there any that stick out that were especially unique?
Let's see. I was in Colorado Springs with Milt Abel in 1986, and the show was a Saturday night sold-out show, first show, and right before the show, a cop came in and said, someone just phoned in a bomb threat to your club, so they searched the club and they couldn't find anything, and
the show went on.
They go, well, the cop said, the owner, it's your call, and the guy go, I got a full house, we're doing the show, and I remember the bomb was they said it was going to go off exactly the time I would have been on stage.
Well, it's nice that the owner was able to make a decision that affected your life. So what's interesting, Larry, there was twice in the history of Laughs Unlimited that we had bomb threats. But we were not even so concerned as to call the cops. We just kind of made the determination on our own, which was probably really risky or stupid, but being in the comedy business and entertaining people and there's drunks and other reputable people that were regulars at the clubs. So getting the bomb threats didn't at the time pose. I mean, I was like the club owner you were working with. I just chose to take the risk. And in hindsight, maybe that was irresponsible, but there never was a bomb, and we never, in our case, we didn't even let the audience know or interrupt the show. We just went ahead as planned. And
that was probably the best idea. I mean, people calling comedy clubs probably think, "Oh, this will be funny," So
right, and trying to just throw off the whole evening for people. In the case of yours, because the police showed up, so the audience and the comics, everybody was aware.
People were asking, "Hey, what's going on?" And the owner was trying, "Oh, no, nothing."
Sure, he doesn't want his audience to leave.
Right.
Oh, that's funny.
So you had. I was trying to find out what year did you open that Laughs Unlimited?
Well, this whole podcast is celebrating 40 years on the fringe of show business. I opened in August of 1980. For those listeners that haven't heard the early episodes, I was working on a book about 40 years on the fringe of show business and working in comedy.
Oh.
And my wife said, you have all this great material. You should do a podcast. And I'm like, what's a podcast? But I've now gotten more knowledgeable. I listen to podcasts now, and I'm doing one now, and it seems like it's going over well. But it is a great way to interact with people like you that we haven't really had a reason to talk in over 20 years. And yet but just hearing your voice, to me, it's like we were together last month, working on something. Time has no bearing.
Well, I mean, I love that club. It was a really fun place to work. It was, you had good timing because I remember, the crowds were pretty big during the week, and the weekend the place was packed.
Yeah, we were very blessed in catching the beginning of the wave. I call the 80s and 90s, but it was really the 80s was the golden age of stand-up, where was, when I opened my club, it was the 6th full-time comedy club in the country, but it was really the only one outside of a main, Sacramento was the capital of the state, but it's not a very big city. We were really amongst just a few choices of entertainment back in 1980, and all the other clubs that had opened previous to me, the Improv, the Comedy Store, Catch a Rising Star, were in huge metropolises like LA, New York, Chicago, and having a club that was full-time comedy in Sacramento, and then eventually I had the 3 clubs, Citrus Heights and Stockton, really kind of put us on the map, at least for the entertainers, because we could offer them more work and a lot more consistent work than other smaller chains or other, it's so funny because a lot of people don't realize that stand-up comedy really started in the dark, smoky rooms of jazz clubs where entertainers were thrown up to while the bands were setting up. They were changing bands or changing musical entertainers. Hey, let's throw a comic up and kill 10 minutes.
Well, it was a great place. And who was the biggest? So you had Gary Shandling there?
He was my very first opening act in August of 1980. It was his very first road gig out of Phoenix, Arizona. He was the opening act, and the headliner was George Wallace, who ended up having his own show in Vegas for a couple decades, and everybody knows him from early TV and stuff. But great. Gary Shandling was the opening act, and but we were able to work with all of the best, including you, Larry. Now, I do have a great set coming up that I want to share with the audience. But before we get to that, so Larry, was there any other interesting experiences while at Laughs?
Yes. Once I can tell you the date. I was working with David Feldman and Bobby Slayton, two great comics.
Yeah. David Feldman was always so bizarre.
He did Feldo the Clown, yeah.
Feldo. I forgot the name. Feldo the Clown was such a unique, sometimes funny, sometimes not so funny, but it was this kind of bitter, angry, drinking, cigar smoking clown that kind of abused the audience. I thought it was hilarious. And then Slayton, he was always a killer. He was very funny.
Probably, maybe the strongest club comic around then. I don't know.
Yeah, and still going strong. And so what happened that week?
So the Saturday, there's two shows. They're both packed. And between shows, I'm out in that courtyard there, and I see this older guy that looks familiar. And I said to David Feldman, I think that's John Mitchell. He was the Attorney General under Richard Nixon.
Oh, wow. John Mitchell, the politician, yeah.
Yeah, it was a Watergate thing, and he was all hooked up in that. And Feldman goes, "You're crazy." I said, "No, it's him." I went over and we started talking. It was John Mitchell, and I don't know if he was there for the show. I don't know if he liked it or not, but it was such a bizarre character to see at a comedy show. And he's actually a pretty nice guy.
That is I don't remember it, so I may not have even caught on that he was there. We were right next door to the Firehouse Restaurant, which was a big political encampment as far as restaurants go. And
I think he may have been eating there, but he was hanging out. So.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that you mentioned we had Governor Duke Majan next door, John Mitchell in the audience. Over the years, we actually had some pretty interesting guest members or audience members, but that must have been an interesting conversation for you and David.
Yeah, I just remember Feldman was in awe. His head was popping off, and I was just, wow, it's kind of weird. But I just remember he's a really nice guy.
That's great. Well, that's a nice little bit of history I wasn't aware of. Well, thanks for sharing that, Larry.
Yeah, that's what I got memories.
Yeah. Well, you never know what's going to happen in a comedy club audience, right?
Yeah.
All right. Finish this interview. You also were coming up in the beginning of the wave of comedy, but you were focused in the Bay Area. But that means you got a chance to work with Paula Poundstone, Robin Williams, and a number of others. What was it like working the Other Cafe or the Holy City Zoo and some of those clubs in the Bay Area at the time?
It was pretty incredible. Like the names you and Dana Carvey, just the amount of talent that was here was really fantastic. So it was kind of intimidating. You see some of these guys. I was talking to Dana Carvey. He said the first time he was going to San Francisco State and he wanted to do stand-up comedy. His friends thought he was funny, so he went up to the Holy City Zoo. He walked in and he said, "This guy's on the stage just killing it. He's lighting the room up so bad." Dana went home. He said, "I don't think I can't be that funny." It turns out the first guy he ever saw at an open mic was Robin Williams.
Oh, I hadn't heard that story. Yeah. That would be a little intimidating, wouldn't it?
So he came back later and then he actually interviewed Robin for the school paper. But,
oh, how funny. I didn't know that. That's interesting. Now, you being more low-key, obviously, you must have shared a stage with Robin over the years. Was that ever difficult or interesting?
He always liked me. He's always very cool to me, and I just think, talk about a different level of energy. It's just, but I think he liked my joke writing or something, and but he was super supportive of me and most comics too. Probably the nicest person I've ever met.
Well, I have found that sometimes the bigger the act, the more they appreciate the people under them that are following in the same path. I had a similar experience not only with Robin, but with Harry Anderson, George Wallace, and a few others that were already done. They made it. They were name acts, and they always took the time to talk to their peers. And even though people like you weren't as famous or popular as Robin, for example, in his mind, you were just another comic like he was, and he respected that and appreciated that.
Yeah, and I think he liked comedy so much. He just really wanted to promote comedy and get people into it and help them if he could, and he did.
Oh, that's great. Well, you mentioned what a good writer you are, so I think we'll share right now. I have a set of Larry Bubbles Brown. I'm going to play it now, but I wanted to say thanks, Larry, for coming on the podcast, sharing some of your great memory. Boy, you were pulling out names and dates.
I got a good memory for dates, yeah. And if I could ask you two more questions before we go.
Oh, sure. You have questions for me. That's unusual.
Didn't you have a big? I seem to recall some picture you had. It was like three comics. I think it was Dennis Miller and maybe Joel Hodgson. And somebody, it was a great picture, and it was in front of, I think you had it out in the lobby of the club. Do you remember that?
Well, we had several. Joel Hodgson, who did Mystery Science Theater, and of course, Dennis Miller, who everybody knows. But there was a lot of pictures. I don't remember a specific.
Okay, guys, I wish I could find it. I think it was Joel and Dennis and one other guy, but it was a great picture.
Oh, that's great. Well, thanks for remembering. What was the other?
The other thing was in the green room. I think this is the first time I ever played. Didn't you have one of the first Pong games?
Yes, we had a table version.
Yeah, because we used to play that before we go on the stage.
We had. I'm a big video gamer, and back in the '80s, video games, kind of like comedy, was really taking off. And I owned one of the first table Pong games. And for those people that are under 50 years old, Pong was basically a paddle or line that you would move right or left.
Yeah, black and white.
It was black and white, and you were basically playing tennis or ping pong, trying to move this dot back and forth. And I had a very unique cocktail table version, which I had picked up, and it was already historic when I bought it, and I had it in the club, and then we moved it back to the green room because we needed space in the front lobby, and it was like that, and I had an antique Coke machine that actually worked in the green room. And it was...
I remember, because I drank Coke like crazy.
And it was things like that were interesting to me, and I was, doing well at this point at the club and picked up, and we always tried to treat the comics better than well, I don't know if that's maybe the right way to put it. We always tried to treat the comics well.
You did, and a lot of clubs didn't. So that's another horror of being on the road. You got clubs that are nasty to you, and we won't name names, but there were a couple that were notorious.
Oh yeah, there's some notorious stories about road clubs. Well, the problem was that in some of the clubs, they treated the comics like this week's meat. They're just going to be here for a few days. Let's get them in, get them out. We're not going to treat them well. We're not going to pay them well. They didn't put them up in good facilities. And I don't want to brag, but we tried to have either a nice condo or a house. We provided a car for the comics for many years, which pretty much nobody did. We always tried to treat everybody like family, and we've talked about in some of the other podcast, we used to take comics out on the boat, or Paula Poundstone, for example, has been out on my boat a couple times. We used to take the comics bowling. So there was different things that we tried to offer to make the week at Laughs Unlimited a little less painful and a little less lonely that the average road gig could be. Hopefully you found some comfort in some sense of welcoming when you came to the club.
I always look forward to coming up there. I still like Sacramento. It's a fun place.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much for being on the podcast today, Larry. Congratulations on your 40 plus years in show business.
39. I haven't hit 40 yet. It's 39.
Yeah, don't want to age yourself.
March 3rd, 81, my first set.
Oh, really? March 3rd of 81. Yeah. Okay, well, since you're so good at dates, you've got it down. So, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Larry Bubbles Brown for
great to hear from you, Scott.
39 years of comedy. And here's a comedy set of Larry. Larry, again, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks for having me, Scott. Great hearing from you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, sit back, relax, and enjoy this great comedy set from Larry Bubbles Brown.
Well, calm down, Mr. Fun's here. I know what you're all thinking. Looks like Rain Man and E.T. had a baby. Boy, it just keeps getting better. Someone stole my identity. Now he has no life. I tried to donate my body to science. They said, try Goodwill. Finances are in shambles. I dropped out of college thinking wiffle ball was going pro. You know things are bad when you're trying to get on jury duty for the cash. It's not a good sign. $12 a day, pick me. Professional people are killing me. I'm getting my physical. My doctor says, I need a list of all the women you had sex with. Oh, man, do I have a disease? He goes, no, but if you get me to bed, I know I can. Should I practice safe sex? He goes, if I were you, I'd take what I could get. Told him I wanted to die with dignity. He gave me a tie. He got me so depressed, I went next door to the therapist. She listened for 5 minutes, said, Larry, maybe life isn't for everyone. Well, if you're depressed, I can put you on Prozac, but I got to warn you, it's going to slow down your sex drive. Slow down my sex drive? That's like putting a leash on a turtle. Give me the pill. Then I'm talking to this lawyer. He goes, do you have a will? I said, to live? No, you got to have a will. Do you want your relatives fighting over your possessions? Yeah, the 84 Fiero with the Dukakis for President bumper sticker. I sense a lot of appeals on that one. All my friends are married. They say, you got to get married. Do you want to die alone? No, I want to take you with me. Well, do you know what it's like to be married? I think so, because once I sat in a bear trap. Gays are getting married. Haven't they suffered enough? You can get mail-order brides in this day and age. Mail-order brides, my luck, she'd choke on the styrofoam packing. Return to sender. No, you should get married because when you get older, your kids will take care of you. Does that ever happen? I'll be 90 in my wheelchair. The kids will be standing over me. What's the PIN number? Where's the money, old man? Thank you. Okay. You should get a tax break for not having children. They pay farmers not to grow stuff. Now we're cloning human beings. That's like counterfeiting pennies. I like kids, though. I used to think I was a gifted child because my parents kept me in a box. Well, summer's here, and like you, my thoughts turn to death. Wouldn't it be neat if you knew what day you were going to die, but not the year? Wow. Politics, man. I finally figured politics out. An oil man became president, an oil man, and gas went to $4.50 a gallon. Yeah. I hope we never elect a pimp. You guys have been great. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Stand-Up Comedy, your host and MC. For information on the show, merchandise, and our sponsors, or to send comments to Scott, visit our website at www.standupyourhostandmc.com. Look for more episodes soon and enjoy the world of stand-up comedy. Visit a comedy showroom near you.